Today, we're heading to Papua New Guinea. We're diving deep into a legal battle that pits one company director against the retirement savings of his own employees. This is a story all about justice, accountability, and this fascinating legal idea called the corporate shield.
So let's just cut right to the chase with a question. Think about this. If your boss or your employer doesn't pay into your retirement fund, your superannuation, can the owner just throw their hands up and say, hey, it wasn't me, it was the company, and get away with it? I mean, that's a huge deal for workers, not just in PNG, but everywhere.
Well, in Papua New Guinea, the Supreme Court, the highest court in the nation, has just given a really powerful answer to that very question. And their decision sends a message that is loud and clear. So you're probably wondering what they decided, right? Let's get into it.
Okay, so first, we need to understand the heart of the conflict. It's all about this defense that the director used, which leans on this legal concept people call the corporate shield. And the case itself? It's about a whole lot of unpaid retirement money for dozens and dozens of employees.
So let's meet the key players in this legal drama. On one side, you've got Jürgen Rue. He was the sole director and the only shareholder of a company called ISTL. And on the other side, the Bank of Papua New Guinea, which is the country's central bank and regulator. And the problem was a big one, a complaint that for 5 straight years, ISTL didn't pay the mandatory retirement contributions for more than 51 of its employees.
Now, to really get what Mr. Rue is arguing, we have to talk about this thing called the corporate veil. You can kind of think of it like a legal shield, or maybe even a mask. It creates a separation between the company itself and the people who own it. So if the company racks up debt or gets sued, the owner's personal stuff, their house, their car, is usually protected. It's a really basic, fundamental idea in business law. And here you can see the two arguments clashing head-on. Mr. Rue's side was saying, look, my company, ISTL, is the employer, so the company is the one on the hook, not me personally. But the Bank of PNG fired back with, not so fast. As the one and only owner, the guy in complete control, you are the employer in the eyes of the law, and you're personally responsible. So Mr. Rue was actually convicted in a lower court. But the story doesn't end there. He took his fight all the way to the Supreme Court. And he wasn't just arguing about the facts of the case, he was attacking the entire legal foundation of his conviction. His legal team basically threw everything they had at the verdict. You can see they questioned it all, from whether the trial was even fair, to whether it was legal to convict him as a person. And right there in the middle of it all was that argument. The corporate veil should have shielded him. They were trying to dismantle the conviction from every possible angle. And you have to understand, the stakes here were incredibly high. Just one of the 4 charges he was convicted of carried a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. And what was that charge for? Well, it was for knowingly giving false information. See, when the investigators from the bank showed up and asked questions, Mr. Rue claimed he had fewer than 15 employees. But when they looked at the payroll records, whoops, they found a completely different story. Over 51 employees, which meant he was legally required to be paying into their retirement funds. All right, now we get to the really fascinating part of this whole thing, the Supreme Court's thinking. How did the judges take apart that corporate shield argument piece by piece and decide that yes, Mr. Rue was personally responsible? And this quote, right from the judgment, is the absolute key. The court didn't just look at the words on the page, they looked for the purpose of the law. They basically said that when Parliament wrote the Superannuation Act, they wanted to make sure that the people actually in charge of a company couldn't just pass the buck when things went wrong. So what the court was saying is that this specific law, the Superannuation Act, was basically built with a special tool, a tool designed to peek behind that corporate veil. It was written to stop the exact thing happening here, an owner trying to hide behind their company to get out of a really important duty to their workers. The judges found 3 huge clues right there in the law. First, the act gives regulators the power to investigate a company's ownership and control, not just the company name, but who's pulling the strings. Second, the law includes prison time as a penalty. You can't put a company in jail, right? You can only jail a person. But here's the real knockout blow. The Superannuation Act literally says that if its rules clash with the Companies Act, the very law that creates the shield, the Superannuation Act wins. Every time. So let's just walk through that logic together. Step 1, the Companies Act puts up the shield. Step 2, the Superannuation Act creates this really important duty to pay employees.
Step 3, the two laws clash over who's really responsible. And Step 4, the Superannuation Act says, I'm in charge here. It was specifically designed to be the stronger law in this exact situation, all to protect those workers' retirement funds.
And so, with that crystal clear logic, the Supreme Court's final decision was simple and direct. The appeal was dismissed, the conviction was upheld on all 4 counts, the corporate shield was pierced. It couldn't protect him.
You know, this wasn't just a win for the Bank of Papua New Guinea in a courtroom. This was a landmark moment. It's something that's going to have huge ripple effects for workers and for bosses all across the country. This is, without a doubt, a huge win for PNG.
So what's the big picture here? What does this all mean? Well, first, it massively strengthens the protection for every single worker's retirement savings in the country. It sends this incredibly clear signal to company owners that you can't just hide behind a corporate logo to dodge your duties. And really, it's just a fantastic example of the rule of law working to protect regular people. It sets a powerful new standard for every single employer in Papua New Guinea. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. This case, while it's about one company in PNG, it really makes you think. Where do we draw the line between what a company does and what the people in charge are responsible for? What does real corporate accountability actually look like to you?